Well, Nick Sirianni responded to calls for him to take over play calling duties for Brian Johnson's offense today after the Eagles struggled to move the football for the second week in a row. Here with the head coach also to say about Desai and the defense getting worked by Dak Prescott. And an anonymous Eagles player spoke out about the offensive struggles. I think I know who that was. Frank Reich. Will the Eagles bring him in to help fix the offense? I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. You know, for all the bad surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles today, and trust me, there's like a ton of bad, can we at least give credit to Darius Slay for having fun with the Eagles fan who put his name on a trash can out to the NovaCare complex yesterday? I mean, let's be honest, Slay has actually been the lone bright spot in the Eagles secondary as of late, when you compare his numbers especially to, let's say, James Bradberry on Sunday. Goodness gracious. Like overall, I mean, his stats for the season, they haven't been that bad. For me, the issues in the secondary aren't just Darius Slay or even James Bradberry, it's the secondary as a whole. They can't cover anybody. Look at this mess, 98.4% rating against Philadelphia's defense. Third worst in passer rating allowed, 31st in touchdown passes. The Eagles have a ton of issues on defense, but Darius Slay being washed is not really one of them. Although you obviously can criticize how he's acted after games and on his podcast, I'm not saying he's been the best player on the football field, but he's far from the worst. Plus, the PFF grades back that up following the Cowboys game. I mean, look at these numbers right here. Slay was the highest graded Eagle on the Eagles defense, followed by Cunningham, Marlin, and Fletcher Cox. And there's a bunch of birds sitting there in the 60s, which is really, really bad. But at the bottom, look, Bradberry in the 40s, Ringo, Nolan Smith, and the lowest graded Eagle on Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys, Jalen Carter. I mean, a far bigger problem than just Darius Slay this or Darius Slay that has been the scheming, the play calling, and the coaching adjustments that Desai and Brian Johnson have been completely overwhelmed with as of late. I mean, look at this poll I did on my channel yesterday, asking what the Eagles' biggest problem has been so far this season. Over 5,000 votes. Brian Johnson is number one. Execution is a close second. Desai is there at third. And speaking of Johnson, we mentioned yesterday that players have told Derrick Gunn that the offense has issues including passing routes taking too long to develop and a lack of motion and creativity. Well, Nick Sirianni was at the podium today and was asked about that question right away. Here's what he said.
We obviously don't think so as coaches. We'll continue to work on making sure that we're meshing things together, that, you know, hey, this looks like that, so there's not a beat on anything, or, you know, this marries to that and the defense can't get a beat on that, because if they do, they're going to get beat on this. So we'll work like crazy on that. You know, there's different things that you want to do. There's times you want to get the ball out fast. There's times where you want to push the ball down the field. There's times where you want to get chunks by throwing it underneath. There's times you want to get chunks by throwing it over the top. There's times you want to get chunks by throwing it intermediate. And so all things are true. You can't be predictable on anything you do. You know, and so like I said, we're working like crazy to complement our plays. So there is nothing. But, you know, we'll look at everything, and during our self-scout, of, you know, which we get every single week, to make sure we're not predictable and doing different things to hit all levels of the field.
It does make you wonder which player was the one giving Derrick Gunn that anonymous tip about the Eagles' offense. To me, it kind of feels like A.J. Brown. I'm not the only one who agrees with this. I mean, come on. You see Dan Baxter on Twitter saying, I know an A.J. Brown quote when I see one. Now, it doesn't really matter whether it's A.J. Brown or somebody else. I'm actually okay with the criticism. I think we need to get this out there that, hey, it's not the fact that we're getting outplayed by opposing teams. Our scheme is not working. Our play calling is not working. And whether it's A.J. Brown or somebody else, they've got to fix this sooner rather than later. Of course, all this recent play calling drama has led to the Philadelphia Inquirer today on the front page of their sports section publishing an article saying the Eagles need to bring back Frank Reich as soon as possible, which was echoed by a lot of people on Twitter, including Mike, who said that the Eagles should bring back Frank Reich this week, not as an OC to take play calling away from Brian Johnson, as an outside voice to come in and help Sirianni's scheme and game plan, which is a far bigger issue right now. And while you can argue that Reich's Panthers were horrible on offense this year, I'd counter by asking you to name an offensive skill player on the Panthers not named Bryce Young or Miles Sanders. Frank Reich is not an idiot. He hadn't gotten 2 head coaching jobs by not being able to figure out an offense, and plus he was the offensive coordinator when Nick Foles had many adjustments being made for him in order for the Eagles to go on that really crazy run and win the Super Bowl back in 2017. Even though he helps with a lot of other things, not just play calling, I think one big thing in particular is he adds another voice to push back against Sirianni if Sirianni gets stuck in his ways. I'm really starting to believe that the warning signs have really started to showcase that Nick Sirianni is kind of the big problem with the Eagles offense. They're doing the 2 main things that Sirianni did basically the entire 2021 season until he gave up play calling to Shane Steichen. What was it? not running the football, which they do not do right now, and letting way too many routes take way too long to develop down the field, causing Jalen Hurts to have to scramble and take a lot of time to find open receivers. Reich might not be perfect, but if you want some change, it starts with Sirianni, and clearly Brian Johnson and the rest of the staff around him isn't getting through to him, or they just aren't making an effort to do so. What do you guys think? Would Frank Reich make sense for the Philadelphia Eagles? Are you all in on going out and bringing in Frank Reich as a consultant, as Philadelphia did with Vic Fangio towards the end of last season, or do you think they can just figure it out internally? Let me know down below right now. Although Nick Sirianni was asked about this in his press conference today, would he take over play calling?
No.
Okay, and what's behind that thinking?
Yeah, I feel good with the people that we have in this building. We're 10-3. We're in control of our own destiny, and we're going to keep rolling and finding answers with the people that we have.
That seems a pretty strict answer. I mean, he's not going to give up play calling as of right now, and a lot of people on Twitter mentioned that Philadelphia is still 10-3, and they're not going to make a play calling change unless they absolutely have to, despite the fact the offense has looked pretty anemic the past 2 weeks. Now, when we talk about play calling, Kevin Byard seemed to take a little shot at Sean Desai after the game, saying that coach was switching it up a little bit, playing a little zone. Obviously, I don't make the calls. You'd have to ask him what he was exactly thinking. And he's definitely in his right to do so, but at the same time, has Kevin Byard really been that good of a player so far this season? I mean, take out the Chiefs game where he had the interception of Patrick Mahomes. He's been pretty darn bad, or at least hasn't been good enough to make me go, wow, that trade was 100% worth it. But still, he's a veteran. He's a former All-Pro. If he doesn't like what Desai's doing, he needs to speak up about it. Now, Sirianni, of course, when asked about Sean Desai, fell on his own sword and defended the current DC.
Where's your confidence level in Sean Desai that he'll be able to get the job done?
Yeah, total confidence. Obviously, that's why we hired him for the job. That's why I hired him for the job, in Sean. And I think really where it is, the yards pile up on you when you're giving up some third downs. And again, that's not just that's the problem's everywhere there, right? Where we are on third down is we got to coach him better. We got to put him in better spots. We got to detail it out for him, and we also got to execute better. So I think that's. Everybody's in on that. I think that this is a team game, and so it's the great. You hear me all the time say this is the greatest team sport there is, and I usually when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the good things that happen, but it's also the truth and when bad things are happening too. And so I respect your question. Obviously answering your question right now, but to single somebody out and single one person out is not the right, is not the right move here. It's how do we get better as a team? And we have to get better as a team. Make no mistake about it.
Now, as we all know, Philadelphia is not out of it by any means. There's still plenty of chances to go and win football games. The Niners had a 3-game losing streak. The Cowboys lost to us. They lost to the Cardinals. Like, all Philadelphia has to do is win out, or at least win 3 of their next 4, and they have a very good chance at not only winning the NFC East, but maybe even winning the 1 seed, as their final 4 games are way easier than the Dallas Cowboys, and obviously the San Francisco 49ers as well. Like, sure, Tommy DeVito has the Giants fired up, but if the Eagles can't beat the Giants twice to end the season, then maybe we don't deserve to be a Super Bowl team and not even really a first-round playoff team. What's your guys' level of concern right now? Again, it's hard for me to look back at the game that I was at on Sunday night in Dallas and go, this football team is going to be okay. But it's also hard for me to look back at a couple of games prior where they came back and beat the Buffalo Bills behind a really great offensive performance, where they held Patrick Mahomes to 17 points, where they slowed down Mike McDaniel's vaunted Dolphins offense and Tyreek Hill. Like, they have a potential to get back to that standing, and if they can, everything's going to be okay. But it starts Monday night on the road against a very good Seattle Seahawks team, and if they can't look good there, then I think people are really going to abandon ship more so than where we're at right now. We got plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks. Make sure to subscribe. We march towards 33,000 subscribers here. It's your best one-stop shop for everything regarding the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.